Welcome to the Impact Ripple podcast, the go-to source for hiring and leadership made simple, doable, and fun for visionary female business owners. I'm your host, Ashley Cox, author, certified HR expert, and founder of SproutHR. And I believe that you don't have to change who you are to be a great leader, because you already are one. Join me as we kiss uncertainty and overwhelm goodbye and say hello to the tools and support you need to grow a profitable, sustainable, impactful team with more confidence and ease. On today's episode, I'm joined by Anna Neilsen, the founder and CEO of Conflict Capable Solutions, where she is revolutionizing how people approach and handle conflict. For many years, Anna was an executive leader for mission-driven organizations that were stifled by conflict. And now she's on a mission to help people level up from conflict management to conflict capabilities with her experience and expertise in civil mediation training, conflict resolution consulting, and facilitated dialogues. Anna and I had an amazing conversation. We discussed what conflict is, why we're so afraid of conflict, and how to welcome it into our businesses and teams instead. Yes, you heard me right. How to welcome conflict as part of your business structure. We also chat about the difference between being conflict capable and conflict management, and it's a pretty significant difference. So you're not going to want to miss that part of this conversation. We wrap up our conversation by talking about how conflict can drive business results, financial and otherwise, in really powerful ways, as well as how it's a big opportunity to retain amazing talent on your team. This episode will definitely have you thinking about and approaching conflict differently in all the best ways. So here's my conversation with Anna Neilsen. Hey, welcome to the show, Anna. I am so excited to have you here. Thank you for being on the Impact Ripple today.
Thanks for having me. I'm real excited to be here.
Fantastic. So Anna and I recently met just this past year, 2022, at a conference for human resources professionals. And we hit it off right off the bat. As soon as I had listened to her presentation, I rushed to the front of the room and was like, we need to be best friends. I love you. Right? Is that how you remember it?
I remember it too. I remember it just like that. I think I said, I love you back. And it was pretty much just love at first sight. So
it was. And now we're text BFFs. We text all the time and obsessively about our handsome little pups, Morris and Reese, right?
Yes. So we kind of go pick for pick, as they say, as the kids say.
And cool kids.
I'll just send a picture and then I'll get a picture back. And if I don't, I say, where is my picture of Reese?
Right. I mean, she is on top of it. For sure. But one of the things I really love, other than Morris, obviously totally obsessed with him. One of the things I really love about you, Anna, is your work that you do around conflict. And I have not seen many or maybe any people who are talking about conflict in the very focused way that you are. And I love that about you. I think it's so special. I think it's so powerful. And everything that you talked about in that presentation that I attended was just so spot on. And it felt like, yes, this is the way to talk about, learn about, and embrace conflict. So I knew when we started inviting guests onto the Impact Ripple that you had to be among the guests on the Impact Ripple. So I would love for you to just talk to us, tell us a little bit about your background and how you came to be focusing specifically on conflict.
Sure. So I am the only child of alcoholics. So that's sort of where it all began. As a kid, I had a really hard time with conflict because things would get really explosive in my family of origin, to the point where I might move out of the house and move back in, and we're never talking about what happened or what's going to happen next. Super isolating and very common experience, both in families and in workplaces and in our personal life. So all of those things. But it was really difficult for me. And fast forward to my professional life many years later, and I am an executive leader, and I end up working at a community mediation center. And in order to become an employee, I had to become a civil mediator as well. Kind of said, welcome aboard, and also you're going to do this.
What a surprise.
Yeah. So the only child in me thought, you know what, this is going to be great. I'm going to be bossy, and I'm just going to get to tell people what they need to do to solve their problems.
I love it.
Turns out mediation is actually about bridge building and getting people to see their similarities and to actually seek them out. Anyway, as part of this, I got trained in all of these nerdy facilitated dialogue methods. And one day I'm in a county jail giving some conflict resolution skills training to some guys that were incarcerated. And after the session, someone walks up to me and he says, Anna, if I had had these skills when I was younger, I wouldn't be in here. And I saw myself and other possible paths in that person. And it was the moment that I knew that it was my calling. And so as I went on in my career, I saw that conflict was the number one thing stifling amazing mission-driven organizations, keeping them from reaching their highest potential. And so conflict-capable solutions was born out of that.
I love that. What a powerful story. And hearing directly from someone that had they had the skills to not only manage, but be capable with conflict conversations, conflict resolution, conflict, maybe there's some sort of give and take there, right? Conflict involves so many different elements that if they would just have had those skills, they wouldn't be incarcerated. That is so powerful. And maybe everybody that's listening is like, well, I mean, like, I'm not going to be incarcerated, right? But how much more effective could our relationships be, right? With our families, with our friends, with our workers. And I know from being in HR for the past 17 years, conflict is a part of every business, regardless of how successful or effective or high performing you are, right? So let's maybe get some clarity around what exactly is conflict.
Oh, this is a great question. Pop quiz. So I think that the perception of conflict is definitely different than what it is. So people perceive conflict as only divergent points of view. They're on some sort of binary where you're on some sort of polar opposite extreme from my polar opposite extreme. And there's just so many more pieces to that puzzle. We aren't always just all the way on one side of a spectrum and all the way on another spectrum. So I think that is how people perceive it, is these opposite sides. But what's really going on is opportunity after opportunity. So that's what I work to help people see. And I think it requires actual skills, a goal, and a vision for what that is. We put our goals around everything else and metrics around everything else that we do. And when it comes to conflict, we just seem to straight up ignore it.
I love that you bring that up, because I read something on your website that talked very much about this, that we've got this process for how to change the ink cartridge. We've got a process for how to request PTO. We've got a process for how to submit an invoice. I very clearly remember reading this word for word on your website, and that there are no instructions on how to handle conflict. So tell me a little bit more about what that, that skill, that vision looks like. How do we bring that to life? Where do we even start?
That the most important place to start is with intention. So again, you saw that I try to be somewhat funny on my website, but I'm trying to really, like you said, bring to life the fact that you're giving people directions about everything. I can go find your well spilled on manual about how to make coffee in your big, church basement coffee maker, but I don't know what to do when I'm experiencing conflict. So we have to set out as people, as individual leaders, to say, we've got to change this for our employees, because I believe that conflict capabilities are the greatest driver of success in organizations. So the first step is definitely just setting an intention to do something different.
I love that. I love that. And I would kind of want to build around this conversation a little bit more about, is all conflict bad? Is all conflict negative?
Oh, wow. If you're asking me, a nerd like me, all conflict is positive in some way. And now people will say, Anna, you're taking this I can take this to an extreme, but I really see that conflict is about being invested. So if we can reframe what we believe about conflict to say, it's showing up in all sorts of ways. It's showing up as arguing or silence or storming out or whatever the behavior is. If we can say, but that's happening because people are invested in whatever the topic is, whatever the outcome is, whatever the process is. If we see it as investment, again, that's a start.
Oh, that's so good. That's so good. And if, one of the things that we talk about at Sprout HR a lot is let's get curious around things. And I think that conflict is one of those areas where we can pause and say, why is this happening? Would you agree?
Yeah, I think it's why is this happening? And I was just thinking about this actually yesterday, that what happens when conflict comes up is we get stuck on this notion that there's a conflict. There's a conflict, there's a conflict, there's a conflict. Bad, 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 bad. As opposed to focusing on the conflict with new perspectives and saying, I have the skills to try to figure out what's going on here. I have a goal for why I'm able to show or why I'm willing to show up in these conversations. My goal is this. And so that's one of the things that I think is so powerful, is helping people reframe and actually have sort of a mission statement for what it is that's making them commit to hard conversations.
Oh, that's so good. And I know you use some very specific language around conflict. And I would love for us to talk a little bit about, what does it mean, or what do you mean when you say being conflict capable versus what we traditionally hear as conflict management?
Well, conflict management sounds like some sort of terrible like rash that we're trying to make go away. Nobody wants to come talk about conflict management. To me, the word management means be quiet. And it means we're not that behavior or these things aren't really welcome here. Whereas being conflict capable is something I see as a specialized skill set. So you are able to have goals, strategies, and intention around why you're showing up the way you do. And it's not as mystical as just saying, talk it out, right? We can't just tell people to talk it out. We have to tell them actually words, phrases, and skills that they can use to do that. And ideally, the culture is driving and reinforcing that. So here we're a conflict capable team. So you're going to learn these skills and you're expected to use them with each other. So it's really about a systematic method that's not complicated, that almost oversimplifies what's needed in order to get to a place where we can capture all the innovation that's possible.
Ugh, I love this. Is just brilliant. This is so brilliant because now I have this really great visual in my head of conflict management of yesteryear is basically manhandling people into be quiet, behave, just do your job. I don't want to deal with any of this. Conflict is bad, 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 bad. Whereas conflict capable is we're in this together. We're having productive conversations. We're uncovering the mysteries of why, this is coming up, but it's most likely related to people being really invested and really caring about the business, about the goals, about the direction that we're going. And I know our clients at Sprout HR, we are always hearing, but how do I get people to care more about my company? How do I get people to be more invested? How do I get them to be engaged and really taking ownership? And it sounds like maybe being a conflict capable team could amplify that.
I think so. I think, what it does is it says, here's some facts that you can lean on. So one of the things that I talk about a lot is leading with your values. So a conflict capable leader is always doing that. Mm-hmm. So name a value of SproutHR, for instance.
Yeah. Well, one of our values is we all lead.
Oh, you all lead.
Yeah.
That's awesome. I love that.
Thank you.
So if I'm experiencing, we get into some sort of conflict and I work on your team, I know that I can bring up something that's not disputable. So I can say, hey, Ashley, the other day, I got left out of an important meeting, and I know that we value everyone leading. And I didn't experience that when that happened.
Beautiful.
So I have a roadmap. I can always, if no other conflict capable skill that sticks with me, I can always lead with my values. And so I teach people that, because we can see the mission, values, and vision on the wall or on our website or wherever it is. And in order to show your team or your culture that you're willing to live that out, this is one way to stay deeply connected to that in a really tangible way and drive the conversation forward. Because now you can only say, yes, that is our value. That is one of our values. And now we're having a conversation. You can't say, no, that's not true.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And this is one of the things we talk about a lot, right? Is our values, and we are creating a foundation. And what a beautiful, simple, and elegant way to further integrate those values into every single thing you do. And I think it also takes the blame game out of factor, right?
Absolutely. It's a totally different experience than me saying, hey, Ashley, you left me out.
Exactly.
Because you can't hear me after, hey, Ashley, you.
Yes.
You can't hear, no one can hear as soon as it's personalized. And not to say that it would never be personalized. Of course, there's a time and space for that. You might get to a place where the frustration has gone on so long that you have to do it. But as a starting point, we lead with what we do want. So we're always working in abundance. And that's another primary factor of being conflict capable is that we're always leading with more of what we do want. I want to lead just like our values say. Mm-hmm. I didn't experience that.
And I love being able to pull that in from both perspectives, or really all three perspectives. I should be able to say that to my team members as the leader, right? My team should be able to say that to me as their boss, as their leader, as the person that owns the business. And team members should be able to say that amongst each other. So it really is threefold, right?
Yeah. And what it does too is it also works on minimizing some of those either perceived or real power differences. Mm-hmm. So CEO or not CEO, the culture is dictated, or my team has said, I'm expected to use these skills. And so it doesn't matter that you are the in the hierarchical sense, you're the biggest leader, the highest level on the org chart. Hmm. This is what we've agreed to. And so it's really powerful for people who don't feel like that their voice is heard. It really gives some structure to that.
Oh, that part. It gives people who their voices, they don't feel like their voices are heard. It gives them an opportunity. And that's, I think, something that we're seeing more companies intentionally bring to light and attempt to create. And this seems like such a great process to do that and to really give some legs to the concept of, we want to hear your voices. Okay, well, we can say we want to hear your voices all day, but if we're not actively doing something to allow people's voices to be heard, then we're really no better than companies of the past who didn't want to hear anybody's voices, period.
Absolutely. And we want to hear dissenting voices. Mm-hmm. We don't want to just hear your clapping and your happiness mm-hmm. and your I love it here. We want to mm-hmm. hear how you believe as a person who is a stakeholder here, how things can be better. And we are going to give you the roadmap to be able to do that, and people around you who will help you practice and accept you for doing so.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's such a big part of a company. If you really truly have DEI initiatives, diversity, equity, inclusion, if you really want to make everyone on your team, feel a part of the team. You have to create the space for that. So let's talk a little bit then about how does a leader start to create this kind of culture where conflict is not only, it doesn't just happen, but it's welcomed.
Mm-hmm. So, like I said before, I think the first step is to set your intention to do so, and then figure out, how can I shift my mindset to see it as investment? So I have someone coming into my office, they're really, really upset. Well, they're really, really upset because they care about something. I'd rather have employees that care about something. Now, the behavioral parts are, there's more complexity to that.
Sure.
But we want people to come to us. And if we want that, we have to show them. I said yesterday to a group I was talking to, we have to show people we believe their experience. And I think from a DEI perspective, this is a huge piece of it. We're going to say that didn't happen, right? You're telling me your lived experience. I was rude to you. You felt marginalized. You were left out. That's not the right language to use, whatever it is. And I don't believe you. And I'm telling you that by just undermining whatever experience you had. So it's about having the intention to see it as investment and then believing people when they tell us they experienced something with us. And that's the hardest part. But most conflict is mostly not personal. And that is a big shift for people. And so I think that's kind of where we have to start.
Yeah. It feels like almost a sigh of relief to think, oh, wait, conflict isn't personal. This isn't about me as a human. It's not about this other person as a human. It's about a thing that happened, right? What is conflict about primarily? What are you seeing in your work?
Oh, great question. I think conflict is actually about lack of clarity. So we need, as humans, we have a need for certainty. That's a huge part of what we're missing. And we have all these great leadership tools that are out there right now, and psychological safety being one of them, emotional intelligence, all these great, really great tools. And so we have to create those spaces. So it's not just saying we want to be this thing. It's about knowing how to do that.
I love that so much. I love that. This has been such an amazing conversation. I really hope that people walk away from this conversation today feeling like, okay, conflict's not a bad thing. And I could actually grow my skills in this area, because I fully believe, and I know you talk about this a lot, Anna, that conflict is something that we can become very capable at. It can be something that we can learn tools, we can learn skills, we can practice, because you don't get good at something if you don't practice it.
Right.
But it's probably going to cause a little bit of discomfort at first, I would imagine, right?
Yeah. And I think the discomfort is actually coming from the wrong place. Like I said earlier, you're focusing on how there's this conflict bad. What you should be focusing on is, what would happen if I don't capture these ideas? What will happen if we don't solve for these difficult relationship dynamics? The intellectual capital loss, in my opinion, is one of the things that gets missed. If you and I have a great idea and it's only our two brains that have this idea, but we're not talking because, and I hear this often, we've just decided the best thing for us to do to resolve it is to just stop talking. But it's only Anna's brain and Ashley's brain who have this world-changing idea. Well, it's gone now.
And we've completely squashed it.
Yeah. So you've got to look for what is going to happen if we don't.
That's a brilliant question. What is going to happen if we don't address conflict?
Yes. And not just people are going to be mad. That's
the tip of the iceberg.
That's the tip of the iceberg. It's all these other things. Is you want to retain people? Yeah. You want to show people that you care about their mental health, their well-being, their ability to grow into leadership skills that are going to change them. These are the kinds of things that really make an impact.
Love it. So let's talk a little bit more about those benefits of being conflict capable. What does that look like for the leader? What does it look like for the team? What does it look like for the business? The name of the podcast is the Impact Ripple. So how does conflict capability benefits ripple out into wherever it can ripple out into?
Sure. So, in your world of HR, and it's people in HR aren't equipped with these skills either. We know that 60% of people have never had 1 minute of conflict resolution training, skills training. And so all of the conflict gets sent to HR, who are also not equipped to handle it. Stress, confusion, adding to the plate that's already overflowing. And then you've got people who are experiencing stress in their day-to-day work life. They're calling in sick. They're not able to be as productive. So it affects everybody from a mental health perspective and from a stress perspective, but it also affects every part of the business because things are slower, things are less efficient, people are less happy. All of those things. So if you want to see happiness and job satisfaction and retention, these are the things that truly have an impact, because conflict can be the thing that's in the way of every single achievement you're striving for.
Boom. That is the mic drop moment of today, I believe. It's so important just to understand, how could this one part of leadership, of running a business, of, being in business, literally impact and change every other part. And I think that, what you say on your website again is about transforming mindsets from, conflict being something that's feared, or like we've talked about today, conflict is bad, 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 to a tool for progress, for innovation, for happiness, because happy people actually are productive people, and productive people, contribute to the business, and they stay, retention, huge part of today's culture, is how do I hire amazing people, but wait, how do I actually keep them? Because they are leaving in droves because of toxic workplace cultures. And so I think that you've really hit the nail on the head here with conflict capability.
Yeah. And I think it's about actually giving people a method. So we're over the days of saying, talk it out, or we have an open door policy. Tell me how, because the other thing is, I don't know what's expected or acceptable. You haven't told me, and my behavior is tied to my livelihood, my paycheck. And so I need you to tell me exactly what to do and then reward me for doing it. So that's my hope, is that we can take that stress away and give people the tools and skills and sort of revolutionize how people approach this.
Fantastic. Fantastic. So it's time now for our favorite and final segment of the show, Imagine the Impact, where we get to envision what it could look like to take action today towards being more conflict capable. So Anna, I would love for you to paint the vision for the kind of impact that our listeners could create with one key thought, a takeaway, an action item from our conversation today, or maybe something you haven't had a chance to share just yet.
Sure. So I think that the vision for being conflict capable is really to get out of your own way and create places where people can do that too. So from a management perspective, you're never hearing about the conflict because it didn't come to you. And these people are not having, your employees are not having to sit around and worrying about what's going to happen or what the outcome of a tough conversation is going to be, because you've created a space where they believe that possibilities are what come from it, that we're not stuck anymore. So helping us get unstuck is really the vision for what being conflict capable is. And it obviously pours over into your personal life as well. Just having that confidence that you can go into hard conversations and show up as the best version of yourself.
Yes. Imagine the impact that showing up as the best version of yourself could have in your business, your community, the world around you. That is such a powerful thought, such a powerful belief that we get to choose to say, I could be conflict capable and I could show up as the most powerful version of myself for my family, for my friends, for my coworkers, for my boss, for my business, for
myself.
For myself. Yes. I love that. So Anna, where's the best place for folks to connect with you, learn more, learn how to be conflict capable?
Sure. So my website is conflictcapable.com. And you can find me on LinkedIn. I'm just Anna Neilsen. And I do create quite a bit of content there, trying to give people some motivation to think about and spread these great ideas. So you can find me there.
I love it. I love it. Well, thank you so much, Anna, for joining us on the Impact Ripple podcast today. It's been brilliant and insightful, and I hope that everyone walks away feeling a little more confident that they could handle conflict in a really productive way in their businesses. And thank you so much, dear leader, for tuning in to our conversation today. I hope that you got so much value from this conversation. Please go follow Anna. I will link her website and her LinkedIn in the comments in the show notes. And as always, it is an honor and a privilege to be here with and for you on your leadership journey.